next employee to be recognized today is Corporal Lisa Conover. Corporal Conover began her career serving the citizens of Putnam County as an emergency communications operator in 1985. In 2014, Lisa was promoted to the rank of corporal and currently serves as an assistant shift commander in the 911 Emergency Communications Center. Previously, Corporal Conover has received numerous letters of commendation and has been awarded for her outstanding service. Individuals that serve for any period of time in this extremely stressful and often thankless position of an emergency communications operator deserves our admiration. But to serve in this position for 30 years, in my opinion, is nothing short of amazing. Corporal Conover is known for her calm demeanor and caring attitude, even during the most critical of events. The situation is grim. There is nothing more appreciated than her calm voice on the other end of the radio, and for that we are forever grateful for Lisa's service. And in appreciation for Lisa's over 30 years of service, I'd like to present to her a plaque for 30 years of dedicated professional service to the Sheriff's Office and to the citizens of our great county.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
And last, but certainly not least, Miss Denise Barstis.
The money lady.
Behind every such successful administrator, there is a strong-willed CFO that always keeps us in check. Denise began serving at the Putnam County Sheriff's Office in 1988 as a clerk in our warrant section. In 1993, Denise was transferred to the finance section, and in 2002, she was named the Chief Financial Officer for the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. Denise has a strong track record as a respected CFO among other law enforcement agencies across the state of Florida, having consistently achieved perfect audits and frequent high praise from our auditors. The Sheriff's Office team likes to tease Denise about how loud her wallet squeaks when they have budgetary requests and how frugal she can be, but she is more highly respected by the PCSO team than she would ever like to admit. Perhaps the most challenging part of a CFO's job is adapting to the new demands as sheriffs change and help incoming sheriffs navigate the requirements of government finance. Denise became the CFO under Sheriff Douglas, who's also seated in the audience with us today, and has served as a key leadership team member for 4 sheriffs now, which I think is certainly a testament to her success as CFO for the Sheriff's Office. Congratulations, Denise. And as a token of our appreciation for Denise's service, I'd like to present her with a plaque for 30 years of dedicated professional service to the Putnam County Sheriff's Office and the citizens that we serve. next two members of our agency that I'd like to recognize is Corporal Kendra Bush and Corporal Merrill Greco. And I'd like to ask them to join me at the podium now at this time. One of the most important awards that we can ever bestow on one of our members is the Life Saving Award. And I don't think that it's something that anyone ever endeavors to earn, but it's certainly a distinct honor. So I will read the citation, which really pales in comparison with how this whole scenario played out. Corporal Greco began her distinguished career with the Putnam County Sheriff's Office in 2012 as a corrections deputy. In 2017, Greco was promoted to the rank of corporal, giving her supervisory responsibilities in our corrections facility. Corporal Kendra Bush began her distinguished career at the Putnam County Sheriff's Office as a corrections deputy in 2010 and was promoted to the supervisory rank of corporal in 2018. On April 2nd of this year, Corporals Bush and Greco were on duty when, through their attention to detail, they discovered an inmate was attempting suicide in a shower. Upon initial contact, the inmate was unconscious and non-breathing. As a team, Corporals Greco and Bush performed life-saving CPR, ultimately saving the inmate's life. As a result of their swift and effective actions to save the life of a fellow human being, Corporal Merrill Greco and Corporal Kendra Bush are hereby awarded the Life-Saving Medal. This is Corporal Bush's second Life-Saving Award. Thank you so much for your support. And as a token of our appreciation, I have certificates for both of them, conferring upon them the Life-Saving Award. And in addition, they will receive a pin that they can wear on their uniform to recognize them for their heroic actions.
All right, one more picture.
And the last of our recognitions today is two Citizen Recognition Awards. I'm not sure that either of these gentlemen were able to join us, but if Mr. Thomas Curbs or Mr. Michael Grayson is in the audience, if you would please join me at the podium today. We had some difficulty getting in touch with them because of the short notice, but I do want to take just a moment to speak to these gentlemen's dedication. Both of them, Mr. Curbs and Mr. Grayson, have been long-standing honorary members of the Florida Sheriff's Association, which we rely heavily on to provide training and guidance for us as we undertake our roles as sheriffs and law enforcement officers. Mr. Curbs has actually been a member of the Sheriff's Association for 25 years. And Mr. Grayson, as an honorary member, has been associated with the Florida Sheriff's Office for 30 years. So I'd like to recognize both of them publicly and thank them for their continued support to not only the county but to the Florida Florida Sheriff's Association, in continuance of our mission to suppress crime. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I know you're proud. At this time, we're going to have the presentation of Melrose Library. If Pat Ward would come forward. And Stella.
There's a lot of guns out here.
All right. Chairman Goddard, Commissioners, also County Administrator, Attorney, Deputy County Administrator, and other officials. So it's my pleasure to be before you today to talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, just wait a second.
Thanks, Mr. Ward.
Can't hardly call them down, they have guns.
I understand that.
I think we can proceed.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Patrick Ward. I'm the Vice President of the Melrose Library Association and also the Chairman of the Building Committee for the Melrose Public Library. My purpose of being here today is to present the Board of County Commissioners an update on where we are with a grant that we applied for last year from the Florida Department of State Public Library System for the expansion and renovation of the Melrose Public Library. As far as background on this, last year at about this time, it was on July 25th, 2017, we came before the BOCC and discussed the application for the Public Library Construction Grant, and a motion was unanimously approved by the full board for the submission of a grant application. On July 28th, 2017, the Interim Director of Library Services applied for that grant. On August 25th, 2017, the Melrose Branch Library Expansion Project was notified that it ranked number 6 of 17 grant applications that were being considered by the state for FY 2018 and 2019 funding. As an additional factoid with regard to being number 6, our particular grant scored the maximum number of points that we could possibly score in order to compete for this grant application. The biggest issue that holds us back is that we are not a headquarters, so we are a branch. So there is nothing that we can do with regards to our current grant application to get a better score than what we have currently. On May 17, 2018, the Interim Director of Library Services was notified that the state legislature did not provide funding for public library construction grants. This is the second consecutive year that the state legislature has not provided any funding, which is abnormal if you go back and you look at what they've done in previous years. Usually it is an alternating type system where one year they will provide grants, the next year they won't. Putnam County has 3 options available for fiscal year 2019 and 2020 consideration. One option is to update our current application that's on file. Another option is to submit a completely new application. And then a third option is to withdraw our application in its entirety. The Melrose Library Association requests that the BOCC support updating the current grant application on file. As I said earlier, there's nothing we can do as far as submitting a new application that's going to give us a higher score than what we currently have. On June 6, 2018, the Interim Director of Library Services provided a letter of intent to the Department of State that allows the option that I just discussed to be considered. We request, the MLA requests that the BOCC consider a motion at your next meeting to update our current grant application application on file for the 2019-2020 consideration. What would be required in order for that application to be considered is a letter from you, Mr. Chairman, stating that this issue was discussed at a board meeting, which has happened today, and that the board supports us going forward with the grant. Subject to your question, sir.
I have none.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, thank you very much for today and briefing us on this. My question is going to be to staff. Do we have to wait a full month to make a recommendation today to, we don't? Mr. Chairman, if you don't, is there no other comments? I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter updating the current application in support of the Melrose Library construction.
Second with a question.
Okay, well, we'll have a first and a second. You want your question now? Okay, go ahead.
Pat, is there anything we can do to enhance this? You want to be the temporary, what'd you call it a minute ago?
Headquarters.
Yeah,
Melrose
headquarters.
There you go.
I'm kidding, but have you gotten anything from the legislature saying that it will be on their agenda this year?
It will, I mean, with every budget year, Mr. Commissioner, it's going to be on their agenda. They made some hard decisions this year, I'm sure, with regards to education and upcoming governor's election and so on and so forth, so it was probably an abnormal year. So what the Melrose Library Association did last year as far as a legislative push is we sent out form letters to our three representatives, our state senator and our two representatives that kind of oversee our district, and ask them for support in funding public library construction grants. We did not ask them to fund our specific grant because we didn't think that was appropriate. But we are going to do that again this year and do a legislative push. So what I would ask the commissioners to do is, if you have personal relationships with appropriate senators and representatives, we would appreciate your support on that issue also. One of the other things that we are considering, there were 17 grant applications on file that were going to be considered for funding, is reaching out to those other 16 libraries and counties to see whether or not they would do a legislative push along with us.
That would be good.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I've just been informed that there's actually more than just a letter that's required. It's a resolution. We don't have a resolution before you, so I'd ask that this be brought back with a resolution on an agenda for the next meeting, and that the action be withdrawn.
I rescind my second.
Okay.
And I'll withdraw my motion, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to recess our board meeting and open our Port Authority meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes from June 12th.
They have proper first.
I'll second it.
Okay, proper first and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any questions? All right, public comment on Port Authority items. Port Authority items, comment, public comment. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close that and we'll move to new business.
Okay, no, I have something under old business.
Okay, seeing none, we'll close the new business and we'll open the old business.
I thought we agreed in workshop that unless we had a agenda item for the Port Authority, this would not appear on our regular scheduled meeting agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner.
I think what it was is by statute, we have to meet once a month. And now we're meeting every meeting and every workshop. Somehow it got from there to where we are now. And so I think what we discussed is that we won't meet in workshop unless there's an item to be discussed at it. And we still have to meet once a month in the board meeting. So I think this one is an error. I think you're absolutely correct, Commissioner. I think that this one is an error because I think we had decided to meet the first meeting of every month, didn't we?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The meeting had previously been advertised, so we had to go ahead and schedule it for today. We will get on the schedule that the Commissioners asked for at the last workshop, beginning with the first meeting of July.
Okay. My only area of concern is Chairman Goddard's slamming of the gavel too many times in a month.
Getting good at it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
we're gonna have to
hear
put
it,
a
don't
bumper on there.
Wear that poor gavel out.
Okay, is that, any other comments on old business? Okay, seeing none, we will close
Better.
our Port Authority. We'll reconvene our normal meeting, and we'll move to public comment. Fill out a blue card, and you have 3 minutes to come up. You don't have to fill out the blue card, just makes it easier, and right now, the only blue card I have is from Mr. Earl Bellinger. Mr. Bellinger, your name, your address, and 3 minutes.
Thank you, Earl Ballinger, 496 Clifton Road, Crescent City. I'm up here this morning to talk about item D on the consent agenda. I do not feel that is a good idea. As you all recall, a couple of years ago, we had a big uproar over the landfill because they were trying to sell it. This is all because, in my opinion, one person had more control than they should have had. Got you 5 gentlemen sitting there. We have the county administrator there, and we've got Mr. Cass out there, who is very knowledgeable about landfill operations. I think you should work as a team, not as one individual. Work as a team to decide the tipping fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Seeing none, close that portion, and we will move to our consent agenda. All right. Start with Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item C, please. And that's it.
Commissioner Lible,
I have none today, sir.
Commissioner Pickens.
Also C.
And Mr. Harvey.
Item D, sir, thank you.
What, Commissioner?
D.
Okay, and I have none that I want to pull, so we'll move to Mr. Turner.
Okay, yeah, I just had a question on this one, Mr. Chairman. It says that we're going to acknowledge and confirm appointments from the Putnam County School Board and the board representative, the board representative and the citizen representative to the Value Adjustment Board. What I was wondering is when does this board meet? Doesn't it meet in the fall?
I think you're right.
Okay, well, if that's the case, the proposed name of Miss Jorgensen is not running for office again, so if it's after the time that she's going to be a school board member, then she would no longer be able to be the school board representative.
It's a good point. We'll have to send that to council.
We'll have to look into that, but certainly if that's what the requirement is, then you can't make that appointment.
Yes, because she
We
is
might want to just
definitely
hold off on
stepping
this
down.
item until that can be a determination.
Okay, so we're gonna pull C.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we would, unless Mr. I think Mr. Pickens pulled C too, is that your same concern?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my same concern. Now, I know, Buddy and I sit on the Value Adjustment Board. This will be our first year, and I believe we have like an orientation meeting July 11th. I
Yes.
believe, so there would be a meeting, but that was my concern, because she's chosen not to run again for school board, so where were we on that?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I believe, Ms. Gabriel, come back me up, I believe this was the information that was submitted to us from the school board, and I believe that information has changed since the submittal, so we will go back now and seek a second name to bring back to the BOCC at the next meeting, so we can have this appointment in place prior to the Value Adjustment Board.
Okay, so at At this point, we'll pull C.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt, I'd like to pull in a couple questions on item N.
N.
N. The amendment.
Okay. Well, let's go with,
Can we
Mr.
get
Harp.
can we get a motion, and on pulling C from the agenda? Can we get action?
Sure, okay, I'll entertain a motion to pull item C off our agenda.
I'll make that motion that we pull agenda item C from the agenda, consent agenda today.
Okay, so we have a proper first,
I'll second it.
proper second.
Mr. Chairman, under discussion,
Yes. Go ahead, I was fixing.
do we want to remove it at this point, or do we want to just table it until the next meeting? What would be the proper?
You're moving from this agenda, we'll put it on the next one.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we, is Judd Newfeld, could we approve him? Or do they need to be done, together?
It does not need to be done together, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, if you so choose to make a motion to do such, you can do it, just word it carefully so that we know that we've got to bring this item back for the school board appointment.
So I will withdraw my second if Commissioner Pickens wishes to withdraw his motion and change it to approving Mr. Newfield.
Yeah, I'll withdraw that and make a motion that we, go ahead and approve the appointment of Judd Newfeld to the Value Adjustment Board.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a proper first and a proper second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, we have none, so it moves. Okay,
Do you want a motion, Stacy, do you want a motion bringing that one back, or just?
No,
So we
Understand
don't
what we
need a
need.
motion or anything to bring the other name back, whoever, somebody will contact the school board.
yes.
Thank you.
okay, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item D is resolution authorizing county administrator to negotiate and waive tipping fees. Although I'm in support of quite a bit of this resolution, I do have some heartburn on the issue of, in our last workshop, the number that I had remembered from back in Jones Edmonds' days, and I confronted Mr. Gass or challenged him on what that number was. The break-even point on our tipping fees was $32 a ton that I remember in Joan Edmonds. I don't feel like I'm ready to move forward on this issue based on the fact that I don't feel comfortable without a cap and a limit, giving sole authority to anybody for that. I have full respect in Mr. Suggs' decision, but it's not just Mr. Suggs. So I would like for us to, if we don't want to have the conversation today or not ready, and it might just be me that's having issues with it, but I don't want for us, I understand the bulk, I understand bringing in, I understand doing more once you get past a certain area, tipping point, I get that. But I don't think we really know what that number is today. And if it's $26 that we can bring it in, fine. If it's $20 and we'll make money for the citizens of Putnam County, fine. But I don't think anybody's ever told me that, and I need to know that number and before I feel comfortable moving ahead with that situation. So that's where I'm at, Mr. Chairman, and if we can get some type of conversation, or maybe it's just this commissioner is reluctant to. I think we have a tremendous asset out there. I think it will be a very good asset to us one day. Whether it's going to be that asset today or not, I don't know. But I want us to be fully prepared going into it when their time is right. Can I call on Mr. Gass to come up and explain?
Yes, sir, you have
Thank you,
the floor.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gass, would you come to the podium, please? And as you're coming, you remember our conversation in the workshop of the $32 a ton. We're currently charging our citizens $43 a ton? $44 a ton to bring it in. So the bottom line is, we really can't go any lower than $32 a ton. Is that correct?
That's
basically what it'll cost us with all of our embedded costs that are already there. Now, the thing is when you bring in additional tonnage, you don't have those additional embedded costs. That would actually start reducing per ton, because you still got your leachate tank maintenance, you still got everything that you have to do, whether you receive 1 ton or 1,000 tons a day. You've got those fixed costs, and what happens is as you increase the amount of tonnage that comes in, those costs decrease per ton. And I can say, yes, for what we are receiving, that our actual cost is close to $44 a ton because of all those fixed costs, but we could accept additional tonnage at close to 32.
Now, that's one part of the equation, though, because I realize, let's just say hypothetically, we bring in 50 tons a day. I know we're somewhere around 70, not 100, but let's just use 100, make it easy for math. And now we're going to bring in 200 tons a day. Well, it might be easier to manage the 200 but there's still compaction, there's still things we have to do. So we're not going to see all that savings just on that. And we're going to see an increase over here in leachate and other things eventually that's going to make this item go up. So my point is, where are we at on the tipping? Where do we, is it $30? Is it $31? Is it $26? And I think that's the number that's bothering me really bad, is I don't know that number.
There has not been an exact rate study done since I don't know when. I don't even know if there has been an exact one done. It's been information that I've been able to glean from projects and things like that. We do know for a fact that we currently receive right at about 200 tons a day.
Okay.
And we know for a fact that during the landfill mining, we were bringing in an additional 300 tons a day, which was more than double what we were receiving, and we're able to handle it with our existing manpower and equipment.
But that was just moving from one cell to another, correct?
That was a contractor bringing material in from the closed landfill.
Right.
So the people in the operational landfill still had to handle it just like it was brand new material. It had to be recompacted, had to be recovered, had to be done like that. That was pushing us to be able to do that, but we were able to do that for a sustained period of time, which was almost a year.
But is it safe to say that the compaction rate on that material, the extra 100 tons a day, I mean, it was already compacted at one time. It was probably broken down to a certain extent.
The biggest problem that we would have with compaction is when you get 200 tons a day, it's easy to go back and rework 2 days worth of a compactor being down. You can rework that material pretty easy, 200 tons a day. Because that would be 400 tons of material you'd have to go back and rework. If you're getting 500 tons a day and your compactor goes down for 2 days, now you got 1,000 tons plus what's coming in. It gets more difficult to meet the compaction efforts unless you have a backup piece of equipment.
And that's how we have a better landfill, is the compaction rate has got to be within standards so we can gain airspace.
Correct. Right now, we're generally running right at about 1,200 pounds per cubic yard, which is good for a small facility like we are. We've only got an 80,000 pound machine, because if we went with a 120,000 pound compactor, it would be too big for the amount of waste that we have coming in. It wouldn't be cost effective. You're talking over $1 million for a 120,000 pound compactor compared to around 750,000 for an 80,000 pound compactor. And the larger one burns much more fuel on a daily basis.
I just want to see a savings in a income column for the citizens of Putnam County. I want to see that, but I don't want to give away the farm hoping that we're going to bring something in at whatever number, magical numbers out there without us knowing for sure what that number should be. And I think you said it best, we haven't had a rate study. And it would behoove us and be prudent of us to have that rate study, in my opinion. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gast.
Mr. Chair,
That's
Mr.
good
Turner's got his
information.
hand up.
Mr. Turner, please.
Well, I have some of the same concerns that my esteemed colleague does. I think that it's very easy to understand that as you bring in more garbage, your compliance cost per ton goes down, your engineering cost per ton, your equipment cost per ton, and your cost of leachate per ton goes down. So we just had, a couple of months ago, we just had an RFP put out for two different contractors. One of those contractors came in here and told us they would bury our garbage for $23 a ton. They said they'd bury it. Now, I understand that that doesn't include any compliance costs, leachate costs, equipment costs. Well, that did include equipment costs because they were going to furnish the equipment. So then, but it didn't include the leachate compliance or the engineering. Okay, so I think that for them to turn in a $23 cost to us, that means that the cost other than those that would be $23 a ton with a profit built in. We had a proposal that stated that. So I'm not saying that we take it at $23 a ton. I'm not making that proposal today, but what I am saying is I've been told by anybody who knows how to bury a bucket of trash with a shovel that without any doubt whatsoever that the difference between where we are and 500 tons a day is some diesel fuel. That's the difference. So we can continue paying high cost. We can continue paying assessments. We can continue paying garbage pickup because we're paying them to pay us $44 a ton right now. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. We're paying them to pay us that amount of money. So the only way we're going to ever fix any of this is to get the landfill where it's supporting itself. So I truly don't think by allowing let me say one more thing before I go there. We can't go after other garbage anywhere. We can't go after a funding partner. We can't go to any county, any city, or anywhere else unless somebody has the opportunity to negotiate. Those deals don't take 4 months where we get it on the agenda, take it to workshop, bring it back and have this board vote on it. It doesn't work like that. The garbage business does not work like that because by then that deal is over and done. We tried to go after, I guess I'm allowed to say it, we tried to go after Alachua County's garbage. Administrator Suggs and I went over there and met with them, and we tried. And we had no negotiating power whatsoever because nobody in this county except these 5 people up here can waive or negotiate a tipping fee. By the time that gets through, we have no shot at it. So if this board wants to continue letting the landfill drag this county down instead of turning it into a viable asset, then we can continue doing the same thing that we're doing right now. But it's always been told to me that one of the most ludicrous things that you can do is if you've got something that's failing, you just continue doing the same thing, that makes it better. We have got to do something. The first step in this, being able to bring in garbage, find garbage, negotiate for any garbage, anything at all, is to allow the administrator to negotiate the tipping fee. We could put it in there that he's got to come back and tell us what he's done where he's not doing it in the dark. We could put something in there like that. I don't think that would upset him, would it?
Absolutely not. I appreciate it.
But we don't have, if we're gonna make the landfill go to the next level, we've got to be able to have somebody with the ability to negotiate the tipping fees within an area that makes money. Now, I understand there's garbage on the street right now that you may or may not can get for $28 to $30 a ton. Don't know that to be a fact. That's just what I've been told. Well, right now, if we can get 300 tons more a month and bring it up to 500 or 350, because I think we're about at 150 now or so thereabouts. And so if we can make it go up to 450 to 500 tons, then that's how much trash we can handle with the equipment we have on hand. When the equipment is replaced, and it's got to be at some time in the future, we all know it, it's worn out. So whenever in the future they decide to change that equipment out, that would be their front equipment to be the new stuff, and the back equipment that they have now they can keep for backup. And so that would allow them, if they could find the garbage, which is no easy task, if you could find the garbage, then they can go to 1,000 tons with nothing but some fuel, and they'll probably have to have another person or two or whatever. But if you're turning $6 million a year for the landfill in additional tipping fees over what they're doing right now, that $6 billion a year will pay for a lot of stuff. So I think we should move this forward today. I think that it's been dragging around for 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years or ever how many, and there's not but one way that I see moving it forward, and that's letting the administrator negotiate for these fees and then come back and tell us what we've done, tell us what's going on, how it's moving forward. I'm not asking to hide it from anybody. I'm just asking it to make it set up to where it's conducive to getting something done, other than just sitting around for another 10 years waiting on something to happen that's not going to happen if we don't make it happen. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to offer a motion to move this staff recommendations or commission recommendations forward, and I support Mr. Turner and this board's effort. I thought our last workshop and everything we discussed was right on point. This equipment does need replacing very soon. It does have life right now and could be our backup, and it's millions of dollars to replace it. We had a good plan sketched out. I think we're going to be able to lower our solid waste assessment to our citizens, letting them have more money in their pocket by doing this. And Commissioner Turner's exactly right. We've tried everything under the world to do to this, to lower it. Commissioner Turner's gone out and spent a lot of time to put these numbers together. I believe in them, and I think they're workable. And with that, I offer the motion.
Okay, well, I don't think we have to take a motion on it right now.
There's a motion.
We can, though.
I made a motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second, and we'll discuss it.
We have, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and I appreciate the comments that were made, and I too want to see the future of Putnam County, and I think our biggest asset is our landfill. But you heard Mr. Gass stand here and say that 300 tons was pushing it. If I'm incorrect, please correct me, Mr. Gass. So when we talk 500 tons, we're talking more and more. If I'm not mistaken, there wasn't, Mr. Gass, you might know this, but didn't Alachua County get a bid for $13 a ton or something ridiculous like that, I thought I read that on their website, something.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that if you'd like.
Well, hang on just a minute.
I thought you already
No, I
answered
do. I'm just going to get through so I think that when we start looking at this, we need to put in some type of caps. And you heard our administrator today said he would welcome some type of restrictions on this. Why don't we go ahead and do that today? Or we're going to do it later. But I'd rather do it today if everybody's in that agreement. But we do have a motion and a second on the floor. I yield the floor.
And a discussion, and Mr. Turner?
Well, I was just asking, did he want me to answer his question? He's trying to dictate the conversation, but, so I was just trying to help answer his question if he wanted it.
I do.
The last Alachua County contract went for $28 a ton, and it, in 4 years, it goes up to $31 a ton, I believe the numbers were, weren't they, Terry?
That was the information that was shared during the meeting that we had with the Assistant County Administrator and Finance Director.
And so, basically, we weren't gonna get that garbage no matter what happened, I'm just telling you. And the reason why was because they control 80 to 85% of the flow to New River landfill. Without that additional garbage, New River landfill is no longer profitable, or can't do it. So the other 3 counties that actually own New River landfill, if they had to take Alachua County's garbage for cost, it wasn't going anywhere, because that cost of that much garbage, they have 880 tons a year, a day. 880, wasn't it?
I believe that's correct.
So, and I may be off a little bit, but so 880 tons a day, and that was what kept their fixed costs down to the point where they were able to take this garbage in. But they went and negotiated a deal with Alachua County, knowing that they weren't going to let them go nowhere no matter what. So they made a little better deal this time than they had last time. If somebody comes and offers to bring garbage here, a broker, St. Augustine, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna ever be one, some other municipality decides to bring garbage here, they're not gonna bring it here for $44 a ton. So we've been in a downward spiral over the last several years, because we're not even trying to be in the garbage business, but we're in the garbage business. And so we have absolutely got to start somewhere, and I think that's where we've got to start. If Mr. Gast has changed his mind from when I had the conversation with him, it's right on the Garbage People of the World's website, or whatever the name of it is, that you can have, that with the equipment we have, certain amount of equipment, you can handle 500 tons a day. If our equipment's not good enough for that, okay, then maybe we do need to try to get 450. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, I would be tickled to death to have that problem instead of turning 150 tons a day, and we can't even make ends meet. I mean, if it wasn't for the landfill assessment on everybody's taxes every year, we would be absolutely bankrupt in the landfill. We would be pouring general funds into it to keep it from going away. So the only way, I welcome the day that that's our problem, is that we're getting so much trash out there and we're making so much money that we got to go buy another piece of equipment. I welcome that day, because that's a long way from where we are right now.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Turner, you had the thresholds for that, the dollar amount. We did discuss in the workshop a range. Do you remember what that was? What, $32?
Well,
28?
I think we can get garbage for $28 to $30. That's what I think we can get it for. I think that it costs us $23 to bury it, and what I'm hanging my hat on is what I said earlier. We put out an RFP, and they were gonna furnish the equipment, and we were gonna furnish the landfill, and they were gonna bury all our garbage and do all operations, with the exception of leachate, compliance, and engineering. We still had to do those, and the scale house. I don't think they were gonna handle the scale house unless we paid them an extra dollar or something. So that tells me that if a private company can go out there and bury trash for $23 a ton, then we can too for that, south of that, because they had some profit built in there. So if we can get the more tonnage that we get, and I want to make it perfectly known that I am not for being a regional landfill. I'm not for bringing in piles of garbage so tall that you can see it from I-95 when you drive by Putnam County. I'm not for that in any way, shape, or form. But I am for trying to get this very valuable asset at least making enough money to where we don't have to charge the citizens of this county money to keep it open every year. I would like to see it get to that
I think
point.
that's all we're after, and what I'm willing to do, if Mr. Harvey, we can do away with your heartburn, is I will modify my motion to reflect a range that the county administrator can operate in his negotiations. If Mr. Turner would like to throw those numbers at us. You were the one that did the legwork on this, and like I said, I do believe in the work you did, and we are swimming in red ink, and we want to get in black ink. We better get with it.
I would like to maybe propose that we take this back, not that we go ahead and pass this motion today, because I'm telling you right now, he can't go out next week and buy garbage. It ain't possible.
I know,
That's
you
not
did
the
a
way
lot
it
of work
works.
on
That's
this.
not the way it works. And so I wouldn't mind setting a bottom layer of it, a bottom that is the lowest amount that he can take garbage for. The highest amount's better, higher the better, but the lowest amount that he could set garbage for, accept garbage for. But I don't think we could do that today, and I'd like to move this proposal forward today.
All right, then my motion stands.
My second stands. Or I guess I didn't second, excuse me, I think Mr. Pickles.
I second.
Well, we have a first, we have a second, with the only condition is that we're gonna put a cap on the.
No condition, we're gonna request that we take it to workshop and try to identify a bottom level is what we're gonna try to, but that is not part of the
The upper
motion.
is $44, so we just need a
Correct.
bottom. That's it.
Well, there's no upper limit. I mean, if you could sell it for $60, that'd be wonderful. But it's not gonna happen. I mean, so you don't need an upper limit, you only need a lower limit, and I think that lower limit is once we take those fees out of it, because the $32 or whatever that came in the past included all those fees. But if we don't need any additional equipment than what we already are gonna have, we don't need any additional compliance numbers than what we already have. The leachate may go up just a little bit, which is a total nother discussion that we're working on at the moment, is how to deal with that leachate.
We've got a whole nother challenge on it.
We're working on it. And the engineering costs are not gonna go up for taking more trash, because we already have the whole next cell. We have it engineered out already, and it's permitted until 2022. So the only reason that cell hadn't been done is because you don't go out and build a cell before you need it, because then it'll fill up with water, and that's what the leachate is the water that comes out of one of them. So then you're just raising your leachate costs when there's no need to do it, because you don't have anything that you're not using that cell yet. And so, yes, I think we can find a lower number, but it has to be a real number. And that number needs to be a number that doesn't include, for the additional fees, doesn't include equipment cost, engineering, leachate, and compliance, because we got to do that if we take in 2 tons a day. We got to still do that.
Fixed costs are there. I'm good with it.
So that, all this is gonna do is bring those costs down, the more of it we can get in there.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lible, I appreciate your offer to bring that in, and that would solve my heartburn problem. And I realize we're not going to run out there and do this, but you heard Mr. Gass say that no real study has been done on the numbers yet. And why don't we just set something today, if we're going to bring it back to a workshop? By that time, Mr. Gass might be able to have some numbers for us, and we can modify those numbers going forward. I think that's a good compromise there.
Well, if you were addressing me, which I think you were, these numbers are real as real gets. Everything we've been through in the last 6 years, I am confident that we're on the right track. We're not selling this landfill, we're not leasing it, we're taking care of our own business with a real set of numbers, and I have no problem with them. And I want to return those dollars, solid waste dollars, back to our municipalities and our residents as soon as possible. And I think this only prolongs it. I don't think there's any reason not to go forward today, especially if we're going to have that discussion with your concerns in a future workshop and modify this business. And that's what we're asking to do. That's it. It's simple. The numbers are good, and I'm not scared of it. It's time to do it. We've been doing the same thing, just like Commissioner Turner said, over and over and over. And it's time to stop it.
And Mr. Gass will be glad to hear from you.
I would like to just put a cautionary word out there that when you're most of this will be dealing with private companies that would be hauling stuff in. If you set a minimum standard, you basically have tied the hands of the negotiator, because those people will look at the public records and that's where their target point will be.
That's good advice.
That is not something that really should be done. The county administrator would be able to negotiate, and you may want to say, bring it back to the board for final approval of the negotiated rate. That way you have your hands on the throttle. But to set a standard would technically tie the negotiator's hands, because that's what everybody's going to come in at. I just wanted to give that cautionary statement out there, because this is business negotiation, basically, is what's happening. And with everything in the sunshine that we do, you set a standard on your negotiator, you basically handcuffed them, and it's not a good position to place that person in.
That's a good point. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Gass. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner Lobby, you're exactly right. I am willing to go forward. It's just a matter of, you heard Mr. Gass just now say it should be ratified, or his comment was one of the ways we can meet consensus is to ratify by the Board of County Commissioners a fee that our administrator would set. You also heard our administrator said he wouldn't mind having some restrictions on that. So why could not we amend this document to say the fee would be ratified by the Board of County Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, may I talk?
Yes, sir.
I think when I started out, I said that's exactly the reason why we've asked to move this forward, because we don't have time in negotiations, if we want to move this, to go and bring it back to the board. It doesn't take, it's not like we can call a special board meeting unadvertised and do this, because we may only have 4 days to come up with the numbers we need to make this work. You know, I think we've got to depend on our administrator getting with our head of solid waste and deciding, can they take that? Is it going to be in the best interest of the landfill? If it's not, they're not going to accept it. So, you know, I don't mind them bringing it forward and telling us what they've done, but I'm just telling you right now, if we put that in there, we've just gone back to where we were before we ever came in this meeting today. So with that, I'm ready to vote whenever you
Call
are.
the question, Mr. Chair.
Well, I want to hear what Mr. Subs has to say.
The only thing I'd say is that I appreciate the confidence that the Board of County Commissioners has in the county administrator and the team that we have working for Putnam County. And I also want to just be mindful to the board that since we've been here 9 months, going on 10 months, that you know that I act in a very transparent manner. And I think this is an opportunity for us to go ahead and continue working in that manner. And when we start negotiating solid waste rates, me, the solid waste director, Mr. Gass and staff, I'm quite confident that my Board of County Commissioners will know where we're at.
Yes, I agree. I think everybody's wanting to see this thing get moved along. Any comments? Any
Call the question.
question?
That means
You want it ready to go?
Ready to vote.
All right. We have a first, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
All right, so we have four for it and one against. All right, let's move to N.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just pulled in, just to update and make sure the audience understands that this is really just to move forward a continuation of a process that started a few months ago, where we created a subcommittee. We have an insurance committee, created a subcommittee. They went out and researched, and we put out an RFP to seek a outside party to assist us on looking at our insurance program, to whether we stay with a funded model, full funded model, or a self-funded model. So we entered into contract with the Bailey Group from St. Augustine. There are a number of steps that we could work with them. We started with education, which we completed, and also they've completed an evaluation of our insurance and our history, going back to 2015, it looks like. And it looks like that we could possibly save money moving forward with a self-funded model. So that's what we're looking to move forward here. I just want to make sure, and I can have Administrator Suggs maybe speak to this, and also I'll ask Travis Cummings, who's a representative of the Bailey Group, maybe to address this. And we're looking forward to get a RFP from a carrier for a self-funded model, which hopefully will make our coverage better, and then also save the county money over the long haul. And we're not looking for a new agent. We have an agent of record, and that, so I just like some clarification on it to make sure. So.
Before we get started, if I may, Mr. Suggs, I'm sorry, but I don't have an N.
It was an amendment.
Okay, I didn't get it. I know what Commissioner Pickens is talking about. I haven't seen that yet. Must have missed the email. Well, I looked and I didn't see it unless I was in the very last page of my file this morning.
So sorry.
But where's the backup information for that? That's page 2, is that it right there? No, that's not it.
The information that you have in front of you was just basically a synopsis of the last insurance committee meeting that we all attended, where the recommendation was to move forward a motion to the Board of County Commissioners to go out and seek an RFP on self-funded versus full funded, so we can see what the cost would be, get those numbers back in, so the Board of County Commissioners would have a full picture of what the internal cost of that self-funded insurance might be, as well as savings to the county and moving forward with a potential 1/1 start date, not necessarily January 1st of 2019, but just moving our renewal date to being a 1/1 start date that will bridge that gap between fiscal years rather than calendar years. And yes, Mr. Travis Cummings from the Bailey Group is here this morning. If there's any questions regarding the process moving forward, I'm sure Mr. Cummings will be more than happy to address those this morning.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the two issues on the table that I'm hearing today is the RFP that we want to go out and look at self-funding as the full insurance committee has suggested. Knowing that possibly the reserves, we don't know what those reserves will look like, because reserves will have to come from the general fund to help prop up the insurance fund to some way of looking at it. So I don't want to mislead any of the bidders out there that it might not happen by January 1, and I think that's important to know. The other item, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Suggs, that the next proposal on this item N would be to request Blue Cross and Florida Blue to move our effective date to 1/1, our renewal date to 1/1/19. Is that correct?
No, sir. The removal of the renewal date has to do with, if we go out for an RFP and we go self-funded, we're going to try to move the renewal date to a 1/1. If we don't go self-funded and we go through another year of fully funded, we will still try to move our renewal date to a 1/1 with Florida Blue at that time. Right now, our renewal date is October 1.
My understanding, the motion Mr. Smith made in the meeting was to move our effective date to the January 1 calendar date.
That is correct for future insurance renewal dates.
Including what we currently are doing now.
I did not take that out of the meeting, but I'll go back and review the minutes. If that's the case, then we can look at it. But we have a renewal date on top of us right now of October 1. So we can look at that, and if we can move it for this year, we'll do that. But I was working under the premise that we were looking at a 1/1 renewal date as we go through the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
Couple of things. I think that the motion, I think Commissioner Harvey is correct. I think the motion was made that we try to move it to a 1/1 date if possible.
Yes.
I think was the way that the motion was stated. A 1/1 date if possible, no matter which way.
Okay.
That would help all the budgeted officers with their, being able to budget later in the year. At least that's what was stated, I think, in the insurance.
And that
meeting.
would be a huge benefit, and it would also assist staff in that renewal period, so that would be great.
So what you're saying is that the motion that you're requesting today on item number N would be to move forward with the motion that was made in the insurance committee, which was to proceed in gathering the numbers, the actual numbers and information on a self-funding system versus a regular system like we have now, and see where the numbers fall out. Is that correct?
That
I
is-
thought that's what was the motion in the insurance committee.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. We're looking to go out for an RFP to get the information back on a self-funded, policy.
I just wanted to make sure I understood, because I did not get this in the packet until this morning, and I still don't have page 2. So, do y'all have page 2? All we did was just get the additional item without any backup information. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. And
We're on the
that's
same
what
page.
you're asking for, is to move the recommendation of the insurance committee forward, the motion that was made.
Can I clarify this? Can I ask a question?
Where'd that come
From our standpoint at the clerk's office? So we're still gonna have a renewal as of October 1 of this year, so we're still gonna have open enrollment in July, is that correct?
I think so.
You're asking me?
Anybody that knows?
Barely know what day of the week it is.
I believe,
For that for you.
okay, go
What
ahead.
day of the week?
It's actually Tuesday, Commissioner Turner, thank you for that, but as an old insurance agent, what we can do, we'll go through the normal process and then request a future date on the next term. So we'll push that out. Am I correct, Representative? Thank you.
So we will still have
We will-
July open enrollment
Everything will
and,
be the same right now,
okay,
and then we'll say we'd like to move our effective date out to a 1/1
okay.
date.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
And that's normal in our business, so it's very normal.
Mr. Pickens.
I don't know if Mr. Cummins would want to come and address, the process or the conversation we had just before the meeting.
You know good and well that a politician's never gonna pass up a microphone.
If y'all got me on a timer, but thank you, Travis Cummings with Bailey Group, and one of the main objectives being here was just to make sure your fine Representative Bobby Payne is doing his job. Sounds like he needs a Melrose Library he needs to deliver to the community, but seriously, he is doing an excellent job. I know y'all know that, and the citizens of his district is fortunate to have him serving. But, you know, Commissioner Pickens and obviously Chairman and other members of the commission, you know, on our discussions, not only at the insurance committee meeting that was held last week, as well as, you know, our individual discussion prior to this meeting, and I've had similar discussions with others, is that the RFP in which the Bailey Group was fortunate to win and be selected for is very explicit as it relates to a clear delineation in terms of who your servicing agent is currently, as well as what our role is to, as you mentioned, educate, evaluate, and obviously the guidance, and now moving on to, since those three tasks showed some you know, attractiveness on changing the way your medical programs are funded, that we moved in RFP process. So while we understand that, I do think in the RFP process, if the commissioner and the Board of County Commissioners agree, that it would be responsible in that to make sure that the carriers, the TPAs, the vendors are clear of what you're looking for. You're not looking for a specific agent for them to partner with, and in this case, you're obviously looking for proposals as it relates to the reinsurance or stop loss insurance, as well as any type of TPA that will be provided. I don't know if that answers the question, but there's an easy way to do it, and we can obviously assist in that. So this commission and those concerns are clearly met. I would say too that this commission continues, the Board of County Commissioners continues to have great flexibility. Y'all did a great job, not only the insurance committee, but the crafting of the RFP that we're working under in terms of you know, continuing with relationships or making future decisions as we progress.
Thank you. I'd just like to make one other comment, and I'll address you as Representative Cummings now. Thank you for your work in Tallahassee and your have commented on how well Bobby Payne is doing. And just want you to make sure you keep him on his toes.
Will do. He's a pretty good sized fellow though, so, he is it's just a number of years I've been there, he is a freshman still, so I'll remind him of that, versus on his years there. But no, I truly mean that. We kid around a lot, but, it sure is a pleasure to work with him, and our districts abut each other, and I'll continue to work closely with him. He's a fine man. Thank you.
Any other discussion on N? Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda, A, B, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N.
No, L has been removed. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the consent agenda with item L being moved out.
Okay, I have a proper first.
I'll second.
Okay, we have proper second.
Chairman, under discussion, I think we don't need to, approve C.
Yes, you're right.
I think we need to take C out of the motion, if that's all right by everybody. We went ahead and voted on one representative, but the other one we're not sure of until the school board brings it back.
Actually, I had,
As well as D.
Yeah, we
D
need,
was our-
C and D
I'll
are
amend
out.
my motion to remove items C and D and L, since they've already been dealt with.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we have proper.
Do we have a second to that?
Commissioner Pickens, second.
Are you in agreement with that change?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that moves, and we'll take a recess, and then we'll return in 3 minutes for our code enforcement. this time we'll, get Mr. Kenny Downs with the Clerk of Court's office to say any comments.
Well, I'm here today because Tim Smith has gone to a conference and he's at the summer conference for clerks. And we don't have any comments, but, we'll be glad to answer any questions. We don't have any comments.
Any questions? Looks like none. Okay. All right, and we'll move to code enforcement. Ms. Lisa.
Good morning. Code enforcement is asking the board to approve the abatement and/or foreclosure of the unsafe structures such as the mobile home, campers, along with the care premises issues located at 132 Pomona Landing Road, including Unit 1 and 2 in Crescent City, and a lien be placed against the subject property in the amount of the abatement costs. There are 4 cases under the same parcel that have been open since January of 2011. For the unsafe residential structures, the occupied campers, maintenance on the existing dwelling, the disallowed use of the ag zoning, having more than one dwelling on the parcel, and the care premises issues. Staff met with the property owner, Mr. Buddy Thomas, along with some of his family members several times throughout the years that these cases have been opened. The first special magistrate hearing was July 28th of 2011. The property owner was not present. Special magistrate ordered the property to be brought into compliance by September 28, 2011, or a fine of $25 a day to begin, along with the $100 administration fee. As compliance was not met by the deadline, a lien was recorded in the public records October 10, 2011. The case was also moved forward to the county attorney for a possible injunction, which was approved December 17, 2014. During the last meeting with Buddy Thomas on May 30th, 2017, he stated that he no longer lived on the site and had not lived there for some time. His daughter gave staff the alternate address for future mailings to a Green Cove Springs address. On May 17, 2018, the special magistrate issued an order regarding abatement and/or foreclosure to be turned over to the Board of County Commissioners. The property owner was not present during this hearing. Site and complex were posted, and the green card was signed. The property owners have been sent a combination of 28 certified letters, 4 first-class letters for all 4 of these cases. The site and complex have been posted 8 times, and an order of abatement and/or foreclosure has been recorded in the public record. All certified and first-class mail signed by Buddy Thomas or someone in his absence. Notices were also posted on site and at the government complex for all 4 cases. Have any questions?
Mr. Chairman? Yes. May I ask? Lisa, in our summary highlights here, it says occupied campers. Is anybody living on that property now?
At the moment, no, but there were. And Mr. Thomas is here at the audience.
How long ago were they, did they recently leave? Is that the point, or?
The last inspection we did on May, there was no one living there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. That's all the questions I have, sir.
Okay, any other questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to make a comment?
Yes.
And speak into that microphone so that we can hear you.
Got 2 different dates on these papers.
Mr. Thomas, if we could get your name and address for the record, please.
Leslie Thomas, 132 Pomona Landing Road, Crescent City, 32112.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Thomas, your address where you're at in Green Cove Springs.
That was my daughter's. I don't know what the address is there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I was there due to the fact that, an accident. It, had to be where somebody for 24 hours to get me back and forth to the doctors and take care of stuff for me. It took care of it. I took about every damn thing I had, but that's beside the point. I got to where I could come back home.
24 hours a day. Due to a tree accident. Got screws in my ankles.
Yeah, I understand what you've been going through, but let's get back to what we were on here. What do you propose to do about these problems?
I'm trying to clean it up. That's what I'm trying to do. But, I mean, and what can I do?
Okay, I understand you're not gonna be able to do that, are you?
I'm not able to afford to pay somebody to come down there and do it, so I just have to do what little bit I can as I can.
Okay, does it appear like you're gonna have this cleaned up in a timely timely? I didn't hear you.
I said, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm doing the best I can.
Yes, sir, and I understand that, but we also have, the citizens that we have to represent, and we need to know if this is gonna get cleaned up. If it's not gonna get cleaned up, then we're gonna have no choice but to handle it ourselves. So what do you propose at this time?
Well, this right here. This paper here said I got till September 28th, 2018. Daughter was supposed to have been coming down there, help me do that. She moved Green Cove to Tennessee. So, I just got me to do it. I live off of $1,000 a month. And I pay my rent, pay my light bill, gas bill, and drive my groceries. I'm broke.
Yes, sir, I can understand.
Afford to hire somebody to come down there and do it.
Miss Lisa, not to interrupt you, Miss Lisa, does he have till September to clean this up?
I don't know what letter he's referring to.
Okay.
He did at one time, his daughter, Miss Sandra, did obtain a demolition permit back in August 31st of 2017. But the permit expired, there was no inspections done. So some of the structures are on the ground, like you can see in some of these pictures. They were vacated. The last inspection that we did, when we went on site with, the family members and Mr. Buddy, they were told to vacate, and they did vacate. It's been empty since. All the mailings, they either get signed by a lady by the name of Mary Ellen McLean, but we also post it on the site as well as at the complex.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a few questions. Mr. Thomas, right now, you said you came back home. Where do you live at now? 'Cause
But
you
right
gave-
now, I'm staying with my sister.
And you're paying rent,
Yes, sir.
right here. You're paying rent to your sister, and then you're broke at the end of the month, you said. Is that correct? So there was really no way you can clean these properties up?
Well, I make, draw $1,000 a month Social
Right,
Security.
right,
Pay $550 for rent.
okay.
That's room and board.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. That answered my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, based on your health and your financial, if you had till September, could you have these properties cleaned up? That's not an answer, sir. It's a yes or a no. Can you have these cleaned up? And it doesn't appear that you could. We don't want to put undue pressure on you, but these matters do need to be taken care of. And if you can't come up with an answer of whether you can or you can't, then we're going to have to proceed as though you can't. unless you can convince us otherwise. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just have a couple. Mr. Thomas, I've been by your place a couple of times, actually drove by there this morning. So it looked like a little bit of grass had been mowed, but doesn't look like any of the structures had been attempted to be removed. Have you tried to contact maybe somebody that's in the salvage business or scrapping business? And then also,
They come out there, if I tear everything down, then they come out and pick everything, but they don't come out and tear it down. Well, one of them I contacted, he wanted $1,000 for each trailer to tear it down and move it. I can't afford that. I wanna live off $1,000 a month.
right, I understand that. Have you reached, I know you've lived in South Putnam all your life, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Have you contacted any of your neighbors to see if maybe they would be able to assist
Oh,
you?
yeah, and they, oh, yeah, we'll be there, but they don't never show up.
I received a couple of complaints from neighbors about this particular case and the length of time that it's taken to get to this point. It doesn't appear that you're gonna be able to do it yourself.
They come and try to help instead of complain to y'all about it not being done. I'd appreciate it. When they call y'all and complain to you about it, ask them, have they offered to stop and help any?
Right, well, I don't know that that's the issue here. It's the issue of you being able to maintain, your property in a proper manner. And it doesn't look like that's happening here, and this case has been going on for a long time. And it doesn't appear that you have a plan moving forward of how to clean it up, even if we were to allow you some more time to clean it up, which is troubling.
Did you have a comment, Mr. Harvey?
I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. You're ready for a motion to be made?
Before I take that motion, is there anything else you need to comment in here?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll move with a motion. Mr. Turner, please.
If the recommendation of staff is accepted today, are we voting on that we're actually going to do the abatement within a certain period of time, or are we gonna add it to the abatement list? I think that's a valid question.
It's a very good question.
List of 28, or I think was the last time we had 28 properties that we foreclosed on that we haven't abated. And we've been discussing it in workshops about trying to come up with some kind of a program to get them done, because if the county is not gonna abate them, and they're not gonna come up with a program for somebody else to aggressively abate them, then it may just be me, but I have a problem taking somebody's property because they haven't abated the property, and then the only difference is we own it instead of them, but it still ain't gonna be abated. Sorry, guys, that ain't right.
Right.
So, you know, if we're gonna go through with this today and take the recommendation of them, and we're gonna foreclose on this property, then for me to be able to vote for it, I think I'm gonna have to have some assurance that we're gonna at least discuss aggressively in workshop of how to do something about it. Because I just don't think it's right to take somebody's property and then us own it and not abate it either. That's not right.
Miss Lisa?
It would go on the abatement list. We'd have to send out bids, of course, like every other abatement. But once we got your approval, then we would be able to move forward with sending out the bids along with all the other abatements that we have.
I understand, but Lisa, it's also a matter of money too. I mean, it's
Yes.
not, for the last several years, it's been my understanding there's been like some money included in the budget to do some of this abatement, and none of it's been done for several years, and I'm not being critical, please, I'm not. It's just that I think that if we're gonna continue foreclosing people's properties and abating, and for abatement, that the county needs to come up with an aggressive way to abate the properties, and I know our budget won't allow us to go just throw $100,000 of abatement or whatever the number may be, maybe more probably for 28 properties. So, you know, it's just, like I said, I think that we either need to come up with a solution to it just going on a list and not being abated. I don't think it's any better for the county to own it than it is for, and not be abated, than it is for the person to own it and not be abated. At least it's on the tax rolls when the person that owns it. And if somebody buys a tax deed on it somewhere down the line, they got to go clean it up. So, I mean,
Well, keep in mind also when we're abating the property, they still own the property. We just abate and clean up the violation and place a lien against the property for the abatement
okay,
cost.
so we're not asking to foreclose on it, we're asking to abate. No, excuse me,
Well-
I misunderstood that.
No,
Sorry.
Yeah? Yes, sir. Commissioner Turner is exactly right. If you look at page 1 of your packet here on this, paragraph 2, it says the magistrate issued an order regarding abatement and/or foreclosure.
Right.
We're not talking foreclosure, we're just talking, we're gonna put it on the abatement list, go out and abate the property, file a lien on the property, but Mr. Thomas still owns the property, he just has a lien based on the property. We're not
Perfect.
taking anything from him.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it would allow the county to foreclose on its lien as well. So that's a decision that could be made in the future.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
later
But
date.
not today.
Correct.
Thank you.
So the only thing we're saying today is put it on the, excuse me,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, if I may, the only thing we're asking today is to put it on the abatement list. We're not asking to enter foreclosure at this time.
That's right.
So let me ask this too. If we put it on the abatement list and Mr. Thomas abates it himself,
Then we would just remove it from the abatement list.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval that can concur with the special magistrate's decision of abatement approval and record a lien against the subject property for abatement costs.
okay, so I have a proper motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I have some discussion.
Okay, all right, so we have a second, open for discussion.
Okay, so your motion would be just to abate it, correct?
And file a lien on it for the abatement.
For just the abatement cost.
That's right.
Where are we with all the fines
We already have a
accumulated
lien.
over?
We already have a lien in place for the daily fines and fees.
Okay, and if he abates it himself before we get to it,
Then we can
Then
bring
you
it
take
back
that
before
off.
the special magistrate for the, fine reduction.
okay, Mr. Thomas owns his property with just the,
Once all the fines and fees are paid for, yes, sir.
okay, the fines and fees, there's already a lien on it for the
Yes, sir.
fines.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that, Mr. Thomas? There's already a lien on your property for that?
No, sir, I didn't know that.
That's only for the fines. So in essence, if you,
How much is that?
I'm not sure, you'd have to find out from them. But right now, you do have a lien on your property for the fines that have been levied against you for not cleaning it up. And we're going to move that put you on the abatement list. That means if we do abate it, then you will be financially responsible for repayment, or the lien will go on, or the lien will go against your property. If you abate these buildings before then there will be no cost on that part. Do you understand?
The one word you used, I'm not too well educated.
Okay.
You have to break the words down.
Was it
before I can
abatement?
understand.
Did you not understand abatement? Abatement is the removal of the damaged property. In this case, your mobile homes. Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Thomas, basically what we're trying to say today is we're gonna go out there, we're gonna put you on a list, number one, for abatement, which means we're gonna find a contractor one day, possibly to clean up the properties that are in question here. If you get to it, prior to us getting to it, you've heard Ms. Suarez already say that she'll take it back before the magistrate, and there won't be any cost to you on that. But it might take us a while to get there. So I would encourage you, if you can continue on trying to clean that property up, because all we're looking for is compliance. And the only tools we have in our tool belt is those hard, heavy hitting fines and abatement. And we don't want to use that, but we want the neighborhood cleaned up. And truly, and I'm going to say this to you, Mr. Thomas, I know you're not in good health. Your neighbors didn't create this problem. You created this
No, I
problem.
didn't create
And you said that if they would come over and help you clean it up.
it. It was people that stayed there.
Well, that's still your responsibility, Mr. Thomas. So, okay, I have a motion. Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask a quick question on
Yes,
the
sir.
motion.
Mr.
The
Turner.
motion was to place it on the abatement list, and if we get around to abating it, then that cost would be, lien against the house, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Property, excuse me. the
Yes, sir.
property. Okay, thank you, that's all I needed was clarification.
Can I get clarification as well on that motion? Did that include the authorization to foreclose in the future on that lien?
I did not put that in my motion.
Okay.
I think the motion was basically to concur with the recommendation.
To abate.
Well, that
Without
wouldn't be.
foreclosure.
Without the foreclosure. Right. Did you mention that that could come up at a later date?
Yes, come back and authorize foreclosure on the lien.
There's no need to go there today. All we want is abatement and compliance.
Okay, and Mr. Pickens? Mr. Chairman, Lisa said there already is a lien of some type for the fines incurred for the period of time that this process has gotten from A to now Z.
Yes, sir. The September 28th date that he keeps referring to, that was his deadline from the special magistrate back in July 28th of 2011. The fine started September 28th, 2011 at $25 a day. It's been running since.
2011. Okay.
So,
Mr. Thomas has owned the property since 2007.
okay, Mr. Thomas, you were unaware of that? Of the lien is already on your property for not complying?
I didn't know nothing about a lien on it.
Okay, can somebody get that information to him so he knows when he leaves here where he stands?
Yes, sir, I can give him a copy. The green card was signed by Mary Ellen for
Okay.
that order, for that recorded lien, but I'll be more than happy to give him another copy.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, I just want to make sure you understand. We do not want to take your property, but the property does have to be cleaned up. So you already have fines against it, which, again, if you comply with this, I'm sure that those fines can be reduced. But if you don't clean the property up, then we will have to clean the property up, and then we will put a lien against your property. But you have time now. I know that your health is bad, and I know your finances are bad, but you still have time to clean up your property and avoid a lot of this headache. Now, if we vote on this, it's going to go into motion, and you're going to be given a limited amount of time to get this done. Do you understand this? Okay,
Understand that?
all right.
Mr. Chairman, I call the question on this.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I don't
Wait,
understand.
he's got a comment, I want to hear it. Mr. Thomas, speak.
I said, as far as that I don't understand. I don't know how old none of y'all are. I don't know what kind of fiscal condition you're in or anything, which is none of my business. But I can't go more than about an hour, and I'm sued for the day, period. I got screws in my ankles. I got two rods in my back, pins in my shoulders. I mean, there's a limit to what I can do and what I can't do.
Yes, sir. And we do understand, and we're very sympathetic, but
I'm 75 years old and got emphysema.
if you can get help to help you clean that up, that it would be in your best interest. In the meantime, we have to proceed, with the way things are. So at this time, if there's any other questions that you have, I'll entertain them. Otherwise, I'm going to go into move on to our motion.
You say people been calling in on it?
Well, it's just a common complaint. If the properties, any properties, not just yours, if the properties are in bad shape, they need to either be repaired or taken down. And that's That's just the way things are. And you don't have to like it, but that is the way things are. But at this time, unless you have any comment on how you're going to get this cleaned up, or that, there's something that you're going to do, I'm going to continue with this motion. I hope you understand. Okay, so we will continue. We've had a motion on the floor to concur with the recommended action. We've had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion moves. Sorry, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for
Yes, sir.
purpose of clarification, the motion on the floor was not to concur with action, but was to put it on the abatement list at this
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. And somebody will get you this paperwork that you requested. All right.
What's that abatement, what's that mean?
Tear down the non-complying portions.
Like I said, I'm not good educated.
Yes, sir, I speak Seminole, so
Actually,
You speak God.
take it down and remove it. Okay, we will now move to our public hearings. And, I was gonna say, I turn this over to Mr. Manning.
Yeah, if I could just, this and the next are both rezonings, which are quasi-judicial in nature, which means before each one of these hearings, 10A and 10B, we'll need to have each of you put on the record any ex parte communications you may have had with the parties, parties being staff or the applicant, and then our clerk will go ahead and swear in any folks that are going to be speaking on these matters. She can go ahead and do that for both of them if she'd like.
I don't know if they don't stand up, they don't speak.
If you don't stand up and swear in, you don't speak.
Okay.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, now, you did understand that, sir, didn't you? That if you did not stand up and did not swear in, you will not be able to speak.
Mr. Chairman, if he changes his mind for some reason he doesn't know of now, we will just ask him to be sworn in before he does.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Okay.
Yes, sir, we got it covered, no problem. He was just trying to let you know that you needed to be sworn in case you decided to speak, but if you change your mind during the meeting, we can have you sworn in at that time. Yes, sir, no problem. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Okay, go ahead.
Ed Preston, planning staff. I have one zoning matter before you today. It's a R18-004. This is an application by the Craft Real Estate Solutions Limited Liability Corporation. They are representing themselves. It is a zoning map amendment for one parcel of ground that has two zoning districts on it. The two current zoning districts are Agriculture and Commercial 2, A and C2. And what they're asking for is to go to C3 on the entire parcel. So we'll go from two zoning districts on a single parcel to just one zoning district. And the purpose is to make the zoning uniform across the parcel and allow it to be used for their purpose, which is car sales. The property is located at 116 North Highway 17. It's about 7 or 8 miles north of Palatka, up near Bostrick. The aerial that you can see here shows that the property has several structures on it, and its future land use, which we are not talking about today, is commercial retail. The entire 4.4 acres has a future land use of commercial retail. But as you can see, the interior has the commercial 2 zoning, and within the parcel surrounding the commercial two is the agricultural zoning. What they are asking for is C3 over the entire parcel. So, just so that you know, the future land use designation, we've provided that text for you, but that is not changing. And we wanted to show you what the two zoning district categories are now, and that's the agriculture, and there's the commercial retail. And finally, while we're here today, we're going to commercial 3. The purpose of the C3 zoning district is to provide a general commercial zoning district, not just car sales, but generally, and a mixture of light and medium intensity commercial uses, and it requires immediate access to a major roadway, which US 17 is. All of these uses on this slide and the next slide are allowed under the C3 zoning district. And you can see there are 10 on this page and 10 more on the next page. Car sales is among those. And we always look at these factors: traffic, flood zone, wetlands, water and sewer, fire rescue, and surrounding land use. And just wanted to show you that this property has no wetlands, has no flood zones, and we even looked at the soils, and nothing seems to pop out as a problem. So our staff analysis is that the proposed zoning district of commercial general, C3, would indeed be consistent with the proposed commercial uses. And the subject parcel in question is adjacent to 17, which is required, and the staff finds that the subject parcel meets both the future land use designation and the zoning district criteria. We have heard no objections from neighbors. We've notified, just like we always do, with a sign on the property, an ad in the paper, and letters to adjacent property owners. The Planning Commission recommended approval on May the 9th, so we find that this proposed rezoning is or will be consistent with the comp plan, consistent with the requirements for C3, and compatible with the surrounding land uses. And so we recommend approval of the request to amend the zoning map from AG and C2 to C3. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Lau.
Go ahead.
Mr. Preston, in the past, it's kind of been, the board doesn't hear what the proposed use is going to be. But you've mentioned car sales a couple times. Are we straight off of that norm, or are we gonna, because really if we go to a C3, we open it up to anything that's approved in the C3, not just car sales.
That is correct. If I have deviated from what's been done in the past, it's just because I'm still learning.
I think Amanda was upset, but I think you're okay.
She's been upset with me before.
No, I just was asking because we've always been told we can't just go on what that is. We have to look at the whole C3 gamut of what's allowed in that use.
I may have mentioned the car sales twice, but also showed you 2 slides that has all the uses listed, and there are 20. And you all are fully aware that any of those uses are allowed outright, is the planning term, without coming back and asking for any kind of permission.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Lyman.
My question remarks were on the same lines, that the applicant completely understand this covers the land and not the structures.
That's correct.
There are residential structures currently on this land that will soon be C3, more than likely.
That's correct.
And do you feel he understands that?
Yes, and it is incumbent on the applicant to be compliant with the zoning. So if they become non-compliant by asking for the rezoning and getting it granted, they are then non-compliant by their own choice and then have to deal with the consequences. But all of those uses are allowed under C3, and any uses that are on the property now that are non-compliant will have to go away.
I guess what I'm asking you then, Mr. President, you can just make that crystal clear to this applicant, that these structures, the land might be C3, but the structures have a way to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turner?
I'm ready, that's all right, he pretty much covered what I wanted to say, so is that I don't think it's harmful at all for us to know what they're asking to use the property for, as long as we all understand exactly what Commissioner Harvey brought up, that it can be anything allowed in there. They could go in there and by right not without even coming back to anybody by right. They could say, well, we decided not to have a car lot, now we're gonna have something else that's perhaps a little bit more intense. But I'm ready to make well, we haven't done public comments yet, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if we could get those ex parte communications on the record, please.
I have none.
I've had none, sir.
I've had none.
Spoke with staff.
None.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna open up public comment for or against. Please come forward.
Is this the applicant?
If you're, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you're gonna speak, you're gonna have to come forward and then she's gonna have to swear you in. I mean,
He is the applicant.
yes, he still has to be sworn in.
Yeah, he's the applicant.
Raise your right hand.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Name and
Charles
address.
Wilkinson. I live, excuse me, I live at Bostwick. I live right behind this piece of property that this gentleman is talking about. And I understand on the application, he's got car sales and
Sir,
and storage.
speak to the microphone too.
This list of 20 things you got down here that goes on that property, you got one listed as a hospital. Now, to what degree does that cover? Question to the commissioner. What does that cover? Anything that goes in there?
That would not
Or
be.
medical?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I understood this gentleman would be the applicant. He's not the applicant.
That's right.
Oh, no, this is Mr. Charlie Wilkinson.
Okay, you live behind. Okay.
I live right, yeah, I got a notification that this
Okay.
is gonna happen. That's why I'm down here.
Mr. Preston can answer those.
Okay, Mr. Preston.
Your question was, can a hospital go there tomorrow if that's the desire? Or as soon as this goes through final approval?
Well, I'd like to know what type of medical facility would it entail?
Well,
If you so desired to put one there.
if the landowner, anytime in the future, whoever that landowner would be, wanted to put a hospital there, they'd have to come in for a building permit because there's not a hospital there today. And that is a review process. And they would have to have enough land to build the hospital and parking lot and retention and have to meet all of the requirements for a hospital. So there is a natural limitation just by the size of the property. There's also a regulatory limitation. They have a right to put a hospital there, but it has to meet all of the requirements that a hospital would have to meet.
Well, I was really concerned about the other parts of the medical profession. Whereas they might have, something to do with, detoxification for people.
I would think that that would be allowed under this zoning category.
Well, is this, car sales and storage, is that what you have in mind of putting there?
That's what the applicant put on their application. They said that they wanted to do.
Not necessarily what they're gonna do, is that it?
There's nothing in our procedure that would require them to do that. They can choose to do that, and they could also choose to do any of the other things on the list, but that is what they chose to put on the application.
I understand. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other public comment for or against? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
with regards to case number R 18-004, I move that we uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission as it was consistent with the objectives and policies of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan.
I second that.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. Do we have any comment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion moved. Okay. Let's move to case number R 18-005.
Maybe now's a good time to go ahead and get those ex parte communications on the record, so I don't have to interrupt you again.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Just spoke with staff.
I did speak to staff, I'm sorry.
None.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Commission, Mike Brown, Planning and Development Services. This application is an application for rezoning a single parcel of property from C2 Commercial Retail to C3 General Commercial. The applicants are Paul and Dolores Chiappini. Property is located at 325 State Road 21 in Melrose, Florida. More specifically, the parcel is at the corner of State Road 26 and State Road 27, or 21, excuse me, in Melrose.
Mr. Brown, could you hold on a minute? Could you guys take that outside, please? Mr. Brown. Okay, go ahead.
The future land use is commercial. And as I indicated earlier, the current zoning is C2, and the proposal is to go to C3. As in the previous case, you heard the commercial land use is what it's designated for areas for the primary commercial locations in close proximity to concentrations of population and have good access to arterial and collector roads. And also, in addition, commercial uses will be directed in nodal areas and large contiguous commercial districts. The C3 zoning district is a general commercial zoning district for a mixture of light and medium intensity commercial uses. In analyzing the site, the future land use designation is commercial, and the proposed C3 zoning is consistent with that future land use designation. As I indicated, the subject parcel is located at the intersection of State Road 21 and State Road 26, both of which are classified as minor arterials in the county comprehensive plan. The county has adopted level of service D for both of those facilities, and a review of the PM peak hour volume to capacity ratios for each of these facilities indicate that both operate within the adopted level of service and are expected to with future development at this location. There are no wetlands or flood hazards for this parcel, and the proposed use is accessible to the intended market or service areas, and does not require significant non-residential vehicle traffic to pass through any established neighborhoods. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning to C3 is consistent with the comprehensive plan, is consistent with the locational requirements for the C3 zoning district, and is compatible with the surrounding uses. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this rezoning. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map from commercial C2 to commercial general C3 for the subject parcel. Is there any questions of staff at this point?
Mr. Harvey? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brown, thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for talking to me the other day about this property. Concern that I have is that's a very busy intersection, and we recently have dealt with that in the past couple of years on the other store that went north of there. Are we able to monitor how they would access the property?
There's an existing driveway at this, off of State Road 21. There's no access directly off of State Road 26 for this parcel. So go back to the aerial. It's hard to see on this picture, but at the south end of the parcel on 21 is where there's an existing driveway, and that would be access to the site.
The reason I say that is I believe there used to be a beauty shop in that building, and they accessed off of 26 for that. But, I mean, there was a big empty lot, and now there might not be, and I was kind of concerned about traffic in that.
I am not aware. They may have an active driveway permit. There may have been one in the past. I don't know that and there may have been maybe a driveway still there. The closeness to the intersection would make it real problematic for accessing. I know that
Right.
that's your concern. And if there is not, one of the things we will be working with is with DOT on this issue. I mean, staff has been discussion, as you were aware, with DOT on that intersection and that segment of State Road 26 for the past couple of years now. But I am not aware, I will have to look into that driveway if there's still an active driveway permit off of 26.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lible?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Brown, the recently formed Melrose, city, township overlay, does it encompass this property?
I believe it does.
So some of these concerns will be addressed in that overlay?
Yeah.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Yes, if the DOT, if the existing driveway is not, currently to code, DOT is gonna make them bring that driveway up to code before they can build anything on it or do anything with it. So even if the existing driveway is there, if it's not to code, I'm sure DOT will work with them to get them a driveway where they usually do. But if it's not to code, they're gonna make them come in and get a new driveway permit.
Mr. Chairman, could I just butt in for a minute and go back to Commissioner Libel's question? You're talking about the Melrose Historic District? Well, is that?
My mistake then. If that's what you're referring to, this is not within
That's right.
the historic district boundaries.
All right, thank you for the
I
clarification.
apologize for that.
Okay. Mr. Pickens?
Mike, I guess it's the property which would be south of it on 21, where those cars are parked. Is that a boat repair?
Yes.
Okay, and that was allowed in C2? I guess, is that a C2 with an exception?
Well, at the time that it came into being, it's been there for a while, and our code has changed a few times.
Right, exactly.
I would say that it was probably allowed at that time that it came into being in that zoning district.
All right, thank you.
Any comments? No. Okay, any public comments for or against? Seeing none.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve staff recommendation to amend the zoning map from commercial retail C2 to commercial general C3
Second.
for the .68 acre subject parcel.
We have a first and a second. We have any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion moves.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move to any appointments. Mr. Turner?
There's several appointments that need to be made. I just need to ask a question. Who do they come from? These appointments to Transportation Committee, the 5 appointments I think that we contacted, they come from the chair, they come from the floor, where do they come? They got to be voted on because they're not from districts?
Yes, that would be the full vote of the BOCC.
Okay, so we've confirmed that these guys want to serve, so Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint James Lyman, Dusty Pye, Joe Wells, Kenneth Jancic, and Norma Went to the Transportation Plan Advisory Committee.
Second that.
Okay, so we have proper first, proper second. Any comment? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion moves.
And on the library board, did we contact, not got hold of them yet? Okay. I think that's it for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Martin?
I have none, sir.
I have none.
None.
I have none. All right, so let's move to County Administrator.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Board of County Commissioners, good morning again. Just 4 quick announcements is all. Just wanted to let you know that we have advertised, screened, interviewed, and chosen a new chief building official. The chief building official's first day of employment with Putnam County will be July 9th. His name is Mr. John C. Offey. He comes to us via Green Cove Springs in Fort Lauderdale. Also, July 20th, I believe everybody's had an email, has been kept in the loop with, on this from Leota Wilkinson, Bobby Payne's assistant here in Putnam County, is looking to put a rural economic development initiative together, meeting here together on July 20th here at the Chambers office, and there's going to be a lot of folks be participating in that. She's working really hard to get a lot of agencies represented here. Been in contact with Congressman Yoho's office. They're trying to schedule a meeting sometime in August. We don't have a date yet. As soon as I hear back, I will let the commissioners know. I believe he wants to do a town hall, maybe even a Project Putnam update. I am currently going to be reaching out to staff in the next few days, working on our second quarter report for Project Putnam. The first one's out. If you five have not received it, please let me know. I'll get you a copy. And it's about 30 pages long or so, and most of the information there is related to Putnam County. So we've had some feedback on that. It was a very positive report from what I understand. And then finally, Bobby Payne has been talking about this for a while. He and I have met. We met out during Farm Share again, doing a Putnam Day up in Tallahassee. There's other communities that do that. I think it'd be very beneficial for us to be in Tallahassee, spending the day with our legislators, showing them what we have to offer here in Putnam County. I would certainly like to invite all the constitutionals and local business leaders of our community to join us on that day. Again, that'll be April 17th. We're looking at going in conjunction with Bradford and Union County and making a rural community day in Tallahassee. So that is in the very early discussion stages, but I do know that we have a date secured, and I just get by consensus that the commission would like for me to continue working on that with Representative Bobby Payne and his staff. I'll be more than happy to spearhead that and keep you in the loop and updated as we move forward. But right now, it's scheduled for April 17th. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, appreciate it. County Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just briefly, to let you all know, that those of you that don't know, we've got the Florida Association of Counties meeting later this week, starting tomorrow morning, and the Florida Association of County Attorneys meets at the same time in Orlando. So I'll be going to that, leaving this afternoon, and that'll take me through the rest of the week. Also, as you may or may not know, some of you I guess know, I was also appointed to their to the board of directors for the Florida Association of County Attorneys, so I'll have some meetings going on with that. So hopefully represent Putnam County well on that board. And I also just want to say that I always look forward to this every year, because there's a lot of good, very valuable sessions that that the county attorney group puts on, and it also helps that I've got continuing education requirements that I can meet by going to this, so it really does serve a number of purposes. I just want to let you all know that.
Congratulations on your appointment, Mr. Manning.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, so we'll see you down there. All right, Commissioner Lible.
Well, last Saturday, I got the privilege of attending the Putnam Sharks swim meet, which we hosted probably most of North Florida here at our pool facility right behind. I point that way because it's literally out our back door. And I was quite proud of Coach McGibbon and the job he did, and all of our recreation staff. The tournament, or the swim meet, was first class in every sense of the manner. It really was. They did a great job. The facility was clean, neat, and well run. And I'll just put a little bug in everybody's ear that in the future we're going to have to give a little attention to that pool. And I'll leave it at that. But there are a lot of concerned parents of what we're doing there. I know money's tight right now, but I just kind of want to put that bug in y'all's ear that it will need attention, and staff and others, let's, give them the attention it needs, because we're hosting these, I don't know how many people were there, 600, 700, there was no room to move over there. It was really, really big. And, this is a sport that's coming on like many others, and, you know, it's going to be very much, it already is a part of our community, and, we have to help grow it. And with that, have a very safe 4th, everyone. I know it's still a week off, but we don't meet again till then. And the biggest thing is watch out for the heat. Oh boy, is it hot already. So that's it.
Mr. Pickens?
Thank you, Chairman Goddard. I know that I believe Commissioner Harvey, myself, and Chairman Goddard are going to attend the FACT convention down in Orlando. So looking forward to that, other than driving to Orlando or through Orlando. So. And also, Chairman Goddard and I should complete our first stage of certified county commissioner training. And so look forward to that, and we should graduate on Thursday night, which is the annual dinner. So looking forward to that.
Mr. Turner.
Seeing how this is commissioner comments and commissioner requests, I'd like to make a request. I'd like to make a request that every department head that we have try to do a little better in returning phone calls. I mean, it just seems to me like, I know that everybody's busy. I know that everybody has plenty to do, but one of the things that frustrates me as a county commissioner is I get a call from somebody that said, I've called so-and-so 6 times and nobody's returned my call. I know we get busy, and I know we've got other things to do, but I think we need to figure out a way to answer people's phone calls. If they leave a message and the message is, please call me back, then I think we need to try to call them back. Now, if the message is, come fix my mud puddle or come unstop my ditch, then, and they didn't ask for a return phone call, I get it, you know. But if they call and ask for a return phone call, I think the department heads need to try to call these people back. They're our constituents, and that's who we all work for. So I think we need to try to do a little better with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. July 4th in Interlaken, it's 33 years I've been doing July 4th. Little story there, there was a gentleman when I first got there, he was an old man, and I helped him set up the parade, and he passed away during the next year, and I inherited it, and I've been there ever since. Hopefully that won't happen to me. But 33 years we've been doing it. This year we're going to honor one of our county employees who's retiring, Miss Marilyn Metz. She's retiring from the Interlaken Post Office, and she's going to be honored as our special guest.
Post office?
Library. Sorry, we don't have a post office. Yeah. So please come out. The parade starts at 10. The veterans ceremony starts at 9:30. Representative Payne will be our featured speaker at that event. It's a great day. Come out and be a part. Crescent City Rotary is coming up to help our Rotary Club, along with Palaca's Rotary, to help catfish dinners and things in that nature. So we're looking forward to the cooperation there. A week ago, Monday, I drove to Tallahassee to meet with DEP, Department of Health, and Department of Agriculture on the BMAP Springs issue. Doesn't really affect Putnam County too much, but it does affect 13 areas throughout Florida, rural areas, and my position there was to represent Putnam as well as my co-chair as the Rural Issues on Florida Association of Counties. We had a meeting, a conference call yesterday with Matt and Stacy and Press and Terry, Mr. Suggs and myself, back to Mr. Bartlett with DEP to discuss and kind of go over recapping what went on. And I think everybody left with pretty good knowing that Putnam County is okay right now. We're meeting our requirements, and DEP is very happy with us at this point. But this particular BMAP doesn't affect us a whole lot, but it could in the future, and just wanted to put that out to you. We did talk septic tanks because I had a resident who was approached by a contractor that said, when your septic fails, you have to go to one of these new septic tanks. I just want to put on record that that's not true. right now. That's not going to happen in Putnam County. And we've asked DEP, Department of Health, and Department of Agriculture, when they do their Round the Florida meeting tour, that they come to Putnam County and brief us on that, and they will give us a future date on that. And I want to thank Press Tompkins publicly. You know, you drive around this county and you don't see things sometimes, but our last field trip that Miss Angie and Press and this board and Tony went out and we toured the Veterans Park. We were talking about getting concrete. Well, I just happened to see, as all we do, that 19 and 20, they're tearing up the concrete out there. So I said, Press, why don't we see if we can get that concrete? And if not mistaken, Mr. Tompkins, you went out there, you spoke to the contractor, and you got that concrete that we could use over at the Veterans Park. So thank you for making that. But I just want to say, just, you know, we drive around a lot, pay attention, but it's hard for us to know everything that's going on. But I do appreciate you publicly for doing that. That would save us some costs right there, and we thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that is the last of my comments.
Well, I'm impressed. And I'm going to say what a wonder it is to live in Putnam County. And I understand what Commissioner Turner was saying about not returning the phone calls. I've had a few complaints on that, but I've also had many people very pleased with how things were being handled by our staff. So I guess it goes hand in hand, but I do see a lot of people, and they're seeing a lot of changes, especially in building and zoning, and that they're being more helpful and getting things going. A lot of the people see that we are improving. We're doing very well. I still get a thumbs down occasionally, and I still have to teach them that our graduation rates are actually going up and our crime rate is going down, which is a plus. I wanted to bring this up just so everybody knows. We have a lot of properties that the county owns that we do want to get rid of. Some of these are just pieces of land. Some of them actually have structures on that we either got by a lien on the property or it was given to us, whatever, but that does have properties. I've gone through, and I wanted you guys to know, I went through and I've gotten all the properties and all the paperwork on all the properties. I'm going to personally visit every one of these properties. I didn't know if anybody wanted a copy of them, if anybody wanted to go. Okay, I can get you, I'll get somebody to get you copies. But if you want a copy, let me know and I'll get you a copy of each. What I'm concerned about is the properties that have structure. And I'm going to go out and look at these, because even though it has a value with a building on it and a septic tank and a well, that doesn't mean it has any real resale value. And so anyway, that's what we're going to go to.
Chairman, I'd like to say that I applaud you for taking on that initiative. It's been needed for years.
You're welcome.
I
Well,
applaud you
I'm
for
going to
that.
applaud all of you commissioners, what we're getting done and the things that we're taking, you know, we're taking the bull by the horns and we're doing something, and I'm just glad to see it. These are things, like you said, it got shoved over, and they do need to be taken care of, but I'm very proud to be part of this commission. With that, as usual, I enjoy going around Putnam County. I enjoy seeing the things. I see a lot more people on bicycles here lately. That's one thing you have seen. I've seen a lot of people on bicycles. I heard very good about the swim meet. So it's just good. We're at a good time right now. I have nothing else to say, and with that, our meeting's over.